Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football for today's transfer news update video, daily live stream. And what are we going to be talking about in today's live stream? We'll be talking about Paul Pogba, the future of Paul Pogba. Could he go to PSG? What's the latest transfer on that? And getting some of the guest thoughts on Paul Pogba. We'll be talking about Camavinga to Manchester United, maybe other potential replacements for Paul Pogba. The Varane latest, what's happening with Varane to Manchester United? Of course, giving our thoughts on England, Denmark, England in the final, and lots of your comments will be answered in today's video. But first of all, let me introduce you to my guests. We've got Chris and we've got Usman here. How are you doing, Chris?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
And Usman, how are you doing?
I'm good. Obviously, still buzzing from last night. So, Chris has already got the shirt on. You love to see it. Happy days, happy days.
Yeah, it was a fantastic win for England last night. Make sure you go check out Chris and Usman's channel. The link to their channels are in description. So go give them some love. But I want to get straight into the first talking point of today's video is Paul Pogba. Now, there's a lot of speculation about Paul Pogba's future at Manchester United. A lot of reports saying, will he stay, will he go? Is he going to run down his contract? All of that, Man United want Pogba to stay, but there's no indication that he will stay as of yet. And a pretty reliable journalist has basically come out and said, I think Julian Lawrence has come out and said that, PSG are considering a move for Paul Pogba. We've heard a bit about Pogba to PSG because we know that Juventus and Real Madrid can't really afford him. And the latest that's come out on Paul Pogba is that PSG are considering a move for Paul Pogba as they look to bring in a new midfielder this summer. Pogba's future at Old Trafford is far from certain. He's in the final 12 months of his contract. PSG also looking at players like Camavinga and stuff, but I think Pogba would be their first choice because, look how fantastic Pogba is. And they say, PSG want Pogba. Obviously United do want to keep Pogba. Pogba hasn't really discussed his future yet with Manchester United and all of that. So he could potentially leave Man United for a price of less than 80 million euros. Now, I'm going to come to you, Usman, first. What is your thoughts on Paul Pogba? What would you do with him?
Right, okay, so this has been a difficult situation because I keep changing my mind, to be quite frank and honest with you, in terms of, he's got 1 year left of his contract. If we were a club run properly, then I would have actually sold him. Only reason being is because we could have potentially reinvested the money into the club, and then no player is bigger than the club. Let me just get that out there first and foremost. We've seen the back of Ronaldo, Van Nistelrooy, even Rooney to an extent. So Manchester United lives on without Paul Pogba, but the club is run by the Glazers. I don't want to go into that, but if we sell Pogba, the money's just going to go into another yacht. We saw with Romelu Lukaku's price. When Lukaku got sold, they just basically said Martial's a new number 9 for Man United. We haven't actually technically replaced Lukaku. I mean, Igalo's coming, Cavani's coming, both very short-term fixes. Yeah. What happened to that 80 million? I see people say it went to Maguire, but that's the issue for me. If we sell Pogba, we're not going to get replacements, so we're going to be stuck with McTominay and Fred and Van der Beek for the entirety of the season. Of course, we'll discuss Camavinga at some point, but on the back of that, for me personally, we're going to have to keep him. We haven't got a choice because we've got Glazers in charge. They don't know how to run a football club. They don't know how to replace players properly. We hadn't even properly replaced Herrera. We've only just replaced. We've only just got a right winger now. It's been God knows how many years since Valencia and actually Young playing on the right wing. So for me personally, we have to keep him because we haven't got the ball to actually deal with the sort of replacement.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think it's frustrating because, we could sell Paul Pogba, but realistically, because he's got 1 year left on his deal, we're not going to get that much money for him. And you can't trust the board to reinvest that money, right? And then you can also say, how do you replace Paul Pogba? I think he's a player that is just a very, very special, talented player. And I always wonder, how do you replace Paul Pogba? And I'm going to come to you now, Chris. If you were to sell Paul Pogba, where would you invest the funds, if we were run properly? And do you think we should sell Pogba, or do you think we should risk losing him on a free?
Well, first of all, I think we need a central midfielder anyway. We need a defensive midfielder to partner Paul Pogba. If Paul Pogba goes, then we need 2. And Camavinga's obviously been linked. And I don't see him as somebody that can maybe play with Paul Pogba. I know it's been spoken about, but he's 18 years old. He's young. He's got a long way to go to really get to the levels of Paul Pogba. Let's be realistic. And he's not really a defensive midfielder. And he's quite creative. I'd say fall somewhere in between, like a Kante and a Paul Pogba. He's not really either or. But he'd need a good defensive midfielder to play with. I don't think Paul Pogba would really work together with him. So Paul Pogba goes, we need 2. Would I like Pogba to stay? Yes, but not to leave on a free. He has to sign the contract if he's going to stay. Otherwise, he has to go. I take Usman's point fully that will the money get reinvested back into the club? We know what the Glazers are like. More than likely not. But the early signs are, since we've had a director of football, it looks like we might be going in a slightly better direction, possibly. I don't want to sort of put my cards on the table and say that's happening, but we've already tied up Sancho. We're linked heavily with Varane. Camavinga looks like we're progressing on. So the early signs are good, but we haven't got any of these deals over the line yet. So, let's wait till we judge on that. But if we do those things, then the signs are good. And maybe the money will get reinvested, but will it get reinvested well is another question. But I would say if Pogba goes, we need two. And it may help us build for the future because Donny van de Beek clearly isn't going to play in that role.
We're not going to get to. Come on, Chris. If Pogba goes to PSG, which of course is a rumor that you're alluding to, I mean, Camavinga potentially could come in, but what's to say they don't just go get Camavinga as well? I mean, if we're going to give them, we're going to give them Pogba. I want Verratti in return at least minimum. I want someone off that ilk. Like again, they're not going to do that. I know they're not, and that's not realistic. But I'm saying I don't trust the club to go out and replace him sufficiently. As you said, we're going to need two players. We're going to need two players to replace him. I mean, we're not going to replace him. But
he can't stay and then leave on the free the following summer. It's just impossible. But I do wonder whether this is Mino Raiola saying the contract on the table isn't good enough. We want more money. PSG are interested, and I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that Raiola is not playing that game. Like, are they really prepared to buy him? Do they just want more money?
It's an interesting one because for me, PSG look okay. They're more likely to win a Champions League than Man United probably right now. But like it's the French league, and I go, you know what? If we get Varane, we get a CDM, and we've already got Sancho. If I was Paul Pogba, I'd rather stay at Man United because I think that's the French league. Yes, you go to PSG, you win League 1, but winning the Premier League for me is 10 times better than winning League 1 with PSG. Winning the Premier League with Man United is a bigger achievement than winning League 1 with PSG. And I get that you might want to leave and compete in the Champions League because, like, I saw United and I said we lost the Europa League final to Villarreal. Like, if you're a top player, like, you don't want to be there. But I'm like, I don't want to sell Paul Pogba because he's irreplaceable. But I think my thought on it is if Paul Pogba really wants to go, then I think you just have to let him go because you don't want to keep a player there against their will. But if Paul Pogba is serious about Man United and he actually is like, I want to take this club to the top again, I want to stay, I would like him to stay. And I always think, if he doesn't leave this summer, if we have a good transfer window, I've said this in a lot of my live streams, I think if he doesn't leave this summer and we end up getting Varane in and we end up getting Camavinga in, I think Paul Pogba could put pen to paper. But let's say we just signed Sancho, we faff about with all these deals, Varane stays at Real Madrid, we don't get Camavinga, we end up bringing in some championship player and saying they're the new Messi because that's what we'll do. I think then Pogba could go, but I just think losing Pogba on a free is horrific. And as going back, as you said, if we lose Pogba, I want Verratti in return. It's like, PSG could take Pogba, but if we get Camavinga in, he's not Pogba's level. He's 18, as well. So I think with the Pogba replacement, it's so annoying, and I think he is irreplaceable. But I just don't know what I'd do with this because I think.
Let me just ask you a question because you've said something, Alice, that. You said regarding that Pogba, bringing back Man United back to the top, that kind of thing. And I look, as someone who loves Pogba, I would love for that to be a fairy tale ending and that kind of thing. It's come through the academy, etc., etc. But my question to you guys is, and to everyone in the chat, why should he stay? He's been here for 5, maybe 6 years. I think he's coming up to now. Is it 5 years? I believe. He's been here for 5 years. We've just listed Villarreal in the Europa League, not even in the Champions League, the Europa League final. Okay, granted, the club is showing somewhat ambition. They've got Sancho over the line, potentially Varane, Camavinga. Obviously, we'll discuss them shortly. But for me personally, if I'm Paul Pogba and I'm looking at it without my main bias, you got to look after yourself. At the end of the day, his career is short. He's not going to be at the top for a long period of time. He's coming to his peak years. Okay, granted, I hear your point regarding winning the French league isn't, in our eyes, significantly better than the Premier League. But you got to remember, he's French. To him, that might mean something to him. We don't know. Yeah, obviously, we don't know. People growing up in France, it might mean something to him. But I just think there's a lot of sort of misconceptions of, if Pogba doesn't stay, Pogba in his head should be saying, I'm Man United till I die. Like, he shouldn't have any loyalties to us because at the end of the day, he's only got a couple of years left in his contract. And as Graham Souness, the fraud, once said, at the end of the day, put your medals on the table, and Pogba hasn't got a league title since he's left Juventus. So we haven't even been close. And come next year, can you honestly sit here and say Man United are going to win the title? Because under the Glazers, I mean, under the Glazers, you can say what you want about Ali. That's a completely different discussion. This is about the Glazers now because they're not getting us a CDM. I mean, every single person in this chat who watches this video knows Manchester United need a CDM more than anything. We haven't been linked to anybody. Like Camavinga's not a CDM. He can play CDM, can play 8 as well. He's like, it's similar to Van der Beek in the sense that he doesn't really fit anywhere in a sense. He's just a top draw player. But where does he fit into the system? We need a CDM.
He's not like Declan Rice. Yeah.
Exactly. If we don't get a CDM, we're not going to win the league. It's just that simple for me. Like, whether we sign Varane or not, like we need a CDM. And Pogba's probably looking at it like, I mean, we could potentially go another year without winning a trophy. And I mean, he's got nothing to show for it. All this talent, he's got nothing to show for it apart from the World Cup. So for me personally, you got to look at it from a perspective of the player. He's not getting any younger. I mean, I wouldn't begrudge him. I know a lot of people will, but he's got to look after himself first and foremost. The club are not showing any ambition.
Yeah, I think as Paul Pogba, you made some solid points there with the Glazers. You know, we can say if you invest, we can win a title, but with the Glazers, we did use Europa League final. Like, if he's not young anymore. He does want to win a league. He wants to win a Champions League. So it's all solid points. And I think if we don't sign a CDM, then we can't go into next season with Fred. You know, you can sign Sancho, you can sign Varane, we could sign Ronaldo, we could sign Messi. But if you go into next season with Fred, you're not going to win a Premier League and stuff. And I think we do need a CDM. And going back to that, how do you replace Paul Pogba? Someone just put a comment in. What about selling Pogba, playing Donny in this position and reinvesting money wisely into players for the future? Do you think if we sold Paul Pogba, I know he's not a like-for-like replacement for Pogba, but would you go for a Declan Rice or a DD and then try Donny as the box-to-box? Possibly. I'll go to Chris for this.
I think he's capable, but I think the issue is that so far the manager doesn't seem to think he's capable. So that's the issue. Like, realistically, is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going to trust Donny van der Beek in that position? Maybe at the moment he feels like he's needed to protect the defence because he doesn't think Lindelof is good enough. If Varane comes in, that might change his mind. Maybe he doesn't think Fred and McTominay are good enough alone, so they have to play together to, again, solidify the defence. So perhaps if he brought in a CDM and another centre-back, he might be a little bit braver on the ball and a bit more progressive. And then he might play Van der Beek in that space because that's probably better balanced at 5 and 5 outfield, whereas at the moment it's more at 6 and 4. So maybe, but I think that you've got to put a lot of pegs into a lot of holes for that to even work because Van der Beek's more of a Carrick type, I think. And he played with very solid centre-backs in Vidic and Ferdinand behind him and played with Paul Scholes, who's probably the best controller of the ball the Premier League has seen in its history. And with all due respect, Fred and McTominay, they ain't that. So I think it's got a long way to go. And just to answer Paul Usman's question as well quickly, like, around Paul Pogba, you are right. If I'm Paul Pogba, do I want to go to PSG or do I want to stay at Manchester United? I think the first thing is I want assurances that top-class players are going to come in and we're realistically going to compete for the Premier League. That's the question. I'm coming with my agent and I'm saying, right, look, this is a great contract money-wise, but who's coming in? Are we actually realistically going to be able to challenge for the Champions League and the Premier League? If not, off I go. So I think it depends on the project. I think is the way of putting it, on the project that's on the table when him and his agent come there. If he comes there and he says, no, we're going to play another season, you're going to play next to McTominay again, or we're going to put you out on the left-hand side, or you can go to PSG and knock balls over the top to Mbappe all day long, what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah, no, some solid points there. I think coming back to a comment you made, was it you that said that, you know, are we playing Fred to protect Lindelof and all of that and stuff? And I think one of the players that we've been linked massively to is Raphael Varane. And I always have this feeling, you know, maybe because when we play Bailly and Maguire, we don't see McFred as much. And when we see Tuanzebe and Maguire, we don't see McFred as much. And I think the CDM for me is still the most important position. But I do think with Varane coming in, you know, we might not play McFred as much if Varane comes in. He's got that pace. And we know, like, the latest on Raphael Varane is obviously, you know, United want Varane. Fabrizio Romano has come out and said time and time again, Man United want Varane. He's their first choice player now. Sancho's done. Varane wants a new challenge. Varane wants to leave Real Madrid. However, the situation right now with Manchester United and Raphael Varane is personal terms won't be an issue, all of that. But apparently Fabrizio Romano said that, you know, Real Madrid are waiting until Raphael Varane gets back from his holiday to discuss what he's going to do. It's believed that Varane does want to leave Real Madrid, but, you know, if Real Madrid offer Varane ridiculous wages, there's a chance he stays. And, you know, Man United want to see if they can get Varane for something like 40 million quid. Real Madrid, as much as they might need to sell him because they'll lose him on a free, they're going to try and hold out for 60, 70 million quid. So as much as this deal feels like it could happen, and it's very, very realistic in the sense that Varane wants to come, we want Varane. It is United doing negotiating all of that. And I'm going to come to Usman, you know, if we don't get Varane, well, first of all, what is your thoughts on the Varane? How are you feeling about it? And if we don't get Varane, where would you invest the money centre back wise?
I mean, in terms of the Varane deal, and it kind of just reminds me of Sergio Ramos's deal a lot. And I've said, look, I've become very skeptical, right? Because of the Sancho thing last season. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. You know, I was adamant we're going to get Sancho last season. And I feel like the Varane situation this year is it's falling under the same category. It's almost like we're overly confident that we'll get him. And I've got a feeling that he's just going to sign a new contract with Real Madrid. I would be surprised if a club of that stature let go of Ramos and Varane in the same window, both of the centre-back. I mean, I know Ramos was coming to the end of his powers, so to speak, but it just would blow my mind if they got rid of both in the same window. So I'm very difficult to accept Varane as an option, as in he's going to get sold. Coming back to the second part of that question, I mean, everyone's going to say Pau Torres, aren't they?
For me, no, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's not many top centre backs out there. I just want to throw that out first and foremost. There's not many available. I mean, obviously there are some at clubs, but the ones that are available, I would probably say Pau Torres is probably one of the better ones out there. But even with him, I'm just a bit concerned about his lack of positioning, his pace. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to give me Lindelof vibes, but he gives me Lindelof vibes.
Yeah, I know.
He just seems like a slightly upgraded version of Lindelof, and I don't really want that for Maguire. I think Maguire needs a proper partner. I'm not saying Stones is that guy, but you've seen with the protection in the front of him by Phillips and Rice, I think that's the main reason to be keeping the clean sheets, to be honest. I know Maguire and Stones are going to get a lot of praise, but Phillips has been running tirelessly, so potentially he could be an option in CDM. I know he plays there for Leeds. That's not his natural position, but I think Phillips, you might be able to get him on a somewhat a cheaper deal. I think that would be interesting. If you don't get someone like a Varane, I wouldn't just go and buy any centre back for the sake of it. I'd probably go and get a CDM. I'd use that money, actually, to answer your question. I'd use that money to buy CDM still. I think Phillips could potentially be that guy as well.
Yeah, coming to your point, you know, Ramos has gone. It's like Varane and Ramos are the same window. I think, you know, that is unlikely, but then I go, Varane has 1 year left on his deal. They won't want to lose on the free. They might have to sell him. I know they got Alaba in, and I know Real Madrid are looking at Jules Koundé and Pau Torres themselves. So Alaba's probably the Ramos replacement.
Yeah, of course.
But so they would only need to replace Varane. So I don't think it's impossible. But I obviously have that fear that Varane could stay. Now, I have this feeling that for some reason I have this optimistic feeling that Man United might pull this transfer through because, you know, Fabrizio Romano said, like, we do really want this guy and he does want to leave. I have a feeling we could pull it through. But, like, I think at the end of the day, you know, if you don't get Varane, I think for me, my second choice would be Jules Koundé, because when I've watched him play, which is only like 3 times, I'm not going to lie, he's looked quite solid and he's looked quick, and I think pace is really important.
He's very quick, but he's suspect as well. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. But
I mean, he's quite young, isn't he? Was he like 22, I think, if I'm not wrong?
Yeah, he's young. He can maybe mould into top player. But my biggest fear is Varane is the only player that I know that comes in and benches Lindelof. And I think Pau Torres and Jules Koundé are probably better than Lindelof. But I think Axel Tuanzebe and Baye are better than Lindelof on their day. But we know Ollie knows Lindelof's safe. He's got a good injury record. My fear is, you know, we can sign any old centre-back, but if it's not Varane, is it going to be Maguire and Lindelof again? I only want to sign a centre-back if I know they're going to send Lindelof to the bench. And I think Baye, fully fit, should send Lindelof to the bench, but he doesn't. And Varane is the only centre-back I go, I know we'll send Lindelof to the bench. So coming back to what you said, if you know what, if we could only sign Sancho and one other player and we couldn't get Varane, I would invest that money in a CDM, because the CDM will provide that protection. Coming back to that Calvin Phillips point, I think, you know what, we do need a centre back, and I think we need CDM more. As much as I think Varane would be brilliant, we can't get Varane. Rather than fucking about with Pau Torres, I think I will go for a CDM, because just to do that job and maybe protect them more. I don't know what you feel about that. I kind of agree with you there.
I'm sorry, Chris, but anything to get McFred off. I don't want to be negative on the show, but and this isn't a disrespect. It is a disrespect to that. But if we want to win the league, we can't play McFred. Like, get a CDM in desperately. Use it, like you just said. In my personal opinion as well, I agree. If we can't get Varane, we need to prioritize that CDM position. I mean, hypothetically speaking, coming back to the Van der Beek point, let's just say Pogba does leave, hypothetically, if we get a CDM of quality with Van der Beek, who can actually definitely play as an 8, box to box, because he's a very good box to box. He's one of those players who finds himself in positions in the area, a bit like a Ramsey, goes into the area, so to speak. So we could quite easily play with Van der Beek, let's just say Philip for argument's sake, and Bruno, and that would work in terms of balance without Pogba there. But for me personally, we have to go all out for the CDM. In terms of centre backs, I mean, you just mentioned Bailly there. Bailly, I would have sold him.
Injury record.
I mean, absolutely outrageous. I can't believe he's got the audacity to be complaining about match time. I mean, it just blows my mind. Like, we need to sell these guys. They need to get replaced because they're not playing, and we're not going to win the league. We're trying to win the league here, but obviously the board got other plans.
Yeah, for sure. So just to remind the viewers, the latest on Raphael Varane to Man United. Varane wants to leave Real Madrid. Man United do want Varane. Personal terms isn't an issue. United will pay his wages. It is United's #1 priority. However, United in transfer window, very, very slow. Not the best at getting our business done, as you know, and all of that. So I think Varane to United is likely. I think there's a good possibility of it, but you just have to see where it goes. Will it be slow United? Will it be boring United? And I'm going to come to Chris now. What is your thoughts on Varane? Is it the right deal to do? How are you feeling? Are you confident about this deal and all of that?
It's definitely the right deal to do. I think he'd definitely be the perfect partner for Harry Maguire. I think, like you said, I think he's definitely the person that sends Victor Lindelof to the bench, and Maguire-Varane's maybe the best centre-back partnership in the league if you put it together. Another person that I like who's really stood out for me in the Euros is Akanji. I don't know how available he'd be from Dortmund, but I think Akanji was brilliant for Switzerland throughout. Really, really quick. Like, we've been talking about the pace, great on the ball, drives the ball forward. A little bit similarly to Maguire, so maybe they'd have to rotate in that aspect of it. But very impressed with him. I think he was maybe one of the standout defenders in the Euros until he went out, Akanji. And I dare say that I know we're already signing one player from Dortmund, and it might be a little bit difficult to get another one over the line.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah. But if we could make that happen and we couldn't get Varane, he would be my centre-back of choice. But yeah, if I had to go for one, Raphael Varane would be the right thing for me. But a little bit like what Usman said earlier, it smells a little bit like the Ramos situation. I'm a little bit concerned that he's got 1 year left on his deal. He'd like a new deal potentially. I know Fabrizio Romano said that wasn't the case, that he is interested. But to be honest with you, that's the kind of noise that you're going to expect to come out because you want to get more money if you want to get more money. So it remains to be seen whether or not he'd be interested. But yeah, to answer your question, Raphael Varane would be my centre-back of choice. But if not, Akanji.
Yeah, for sure. I pretty much agree with what you're saying, all of that. And another player that Man United has been linked to that I do want to talk about is Camavinga. And as we know, Fabrizio Romano did say that Edouard Camavinga is Manchester United's priority midfielder, and negotiations are ready to start with Rennes, as Camavinga has no intention of renewing his deal. United will look to take advantage of him and make an offer for him. We also know that personal terms between Man United and Camavinga will not be an issue. We know Camavinga is open to the idea of moving to Manchester United. So the situation is United want Camavinga. He's got 1 year left on his deal. We could take advantage of this. Camavinga would be happy to join, but again, we would be in a race with PSG to sign Camavinga and all of that. For me, I think Camavinga is a fantastic player. I would love him at Man United. I still think, he's not an out-and-out CDM. He's not the type of player that's going to hold and let Pogba and Bruno play as 2-8s, but it's a signing that I think we need to do. And all of that. And I just want to come to Usman. What is your feelings around Camavinga? Is this a signing you would take, or do you think there still needs to be more done to the midfield?
I mean, this is the signing that is the biggest no-brainer signing that you could ever get. I mean, 22 million for a player of his caliber.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to bring Dan James into it, but that's 7 million more than Dan James. Like, that's his broad daylight stealing. That is outrageous. I mean, for me personally, I'm surprised that more teams aren't interested in getting him for such a knockoff price. But in terms of his quality, again, like I said, he kind of falls in similar situation with Van der Beek, where he kind of can play the 6, can play an 8. I think with Camavinga, he specializes more as a creative midfielder, but he's also been fantastic in terms of ball retention as well throughout the entirety of the season. I believe he's near the top as well. He's got a lot of energy, as you would imagine, as a young lad. So for me personally, it's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, the fact that McTominay is playing week in, week out for us, I mean, Camavinga is like double McTominay's ability. So absolute no-brainer. I think we need to get that. My only concern is that he will go PSG. Again, everyone must be thinking I'm a PSG fan deep down or something, but I'm not, I can assure you. But it just makes sense. He's French, you know, he won't be too far from home, sort of thing. It's similar to what Bayern Munich do in the German league, of course. They just steal all the good talent and they don't even play him. But yeah, Camavinga would be an absolute steal for us. I mean, we should be snapping that up ASAP before someone else clicks onto it.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, it's quoted any price between 22 and 32 million pounds to snap up an 18-year-old playing week in, week out. He's more of a box to box, but can play deep. He's a player that you probably play in a pivot with Paul Pogba, you know, if Paul Pogba stays. But I think it's pretty clear that he is going to leave Rennes this summer because, you know, they're a club that needs money. They won't lose him on a free. We know that Rennes are looking at the FC Michelin, I probably didn't say the name right, midfielder Jens Lils or something like that. That came in and all of that. And I think the situation with Camavinga is Romano said it time and time again. Man United, PSG, and Real Madrid are interested. You know, United
says it all.
Yeah, Man United will make contact. He's open to joining Man United, but Man United have to compete with PSG and Real Madrid. And when Man United have to compete with players, you know, it doesn't really end badly. And I'm going to come to Chris. Like, how do you feel? Do you think Man United could beat competition in this? Do you think it's the right deal to do? And all of that. What's your thoughts?
I think with Camavinga, I think from PSG's point of view, they're going to sign Pogba or they're going to sign Camavinga. I think if they sign Pogba, it opens the door for us to sign Camavinga. And if we keep Paul Pogba, then a little bit like the discussion we had earlier around Paul Pogba, unfortunately, if you've got a choice of the two clubs, you probably go PSG right now as it stands. And having said that, they've got so many midfield players that they could probably play a 1-9-1. Like, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm 18 years old, to be honest, and they've got the amount of midfield options that they've got, especially still being linked with others.
But we've got a lot as well, Chris. Sorry to interrupt you, but someone just put a really good comment there regarding Oli signing. Is it Van der Beek? I mean, we've got Van der Beek, Matic, McTominay, Fred, Pogba.
All right.
Bruno. I mean,
maybe I should have said quality.
Yeah, that's better word. Okay.
Selection of quality midfielders that I'd have to compete with as an 18-year-old. You know, with all due respect, he might fancy his chances competing for a place with Fred, McTominay, Matic. Maybe not with Verratti and everybody else that they've got. It might be a little bit more difficult, especially if they're still looking at players like Paul Pogba that are going to want to play that role. So I like Camavinga. I don't think he's the answer in terms of what we need right now. But if we can bring him in addition to what we need as somebody that's going to grow into that role and in the future, I think he's going to be a world star. But that's going to take 2-3 years. And unfortunately, we don't have 2-3 years.
Yeah, we want to become second. You want to turn second in the first. So I guess you kind of need players that are going to be a big impact sign on that. And I think, you know, there's a chance we can get Camavinga. I think Camavinga's the right signing. And I think, you know what, as Red United TV commented, big up Red United TV, go subscribe to him. He said, if United sign Camavinga and Varane, surely Pogba will stay. You know, I don't want to talk too much about Pogba because they have covered that. Connection. But I do think Camavinga, Pogba in a pivot, French connection. I think, you know, I think Pogba could help him be a great player, and Didier Deschamps compared sort of Camavinga to Kante. He said, with talents like Camavinga and players like Kante, you know, with them in the midfield, you can play anyone next to them. And I do think Camavinga has the potential to be moulded into that Kante player to go next to Paul Pogba. And I think, you know, how would you feel about Camavinga Pogba pivot next season? Would you play over him with Fred? I mean, it's probably.
Is that even a question?
I was like, that's quite an obvious answer.
I mean, I'll pretend it's not. But look, I was going to suggest a pivot anyways. Because I think in terms of, as already mentioned, in terms of his ball retention, he was one of the top in the league anyways. Kante isn't actually a CDM by nature as well. He kind of works as a box to box, although everyone affiliate him as a CDM because he's always everywhere. I mean. Players like Camavinga, they just, when you've got that much quality and you're playing alongside Paul Pogba, I think they would just they'd complement each other in terms of Camavinga's got the energy to get around the pitch first and foremost, similar to what Herrera had for us initially. I suppose Fred, to an extent, has got that energy as well, but Camavinga's got that quality on the ball as well. He's got the ability to create. I mean, he's still 18. We can potentially mold him into whatever we like. However, as Chris said, is he the answer right now? Probably not. We will still need a CDM for me personally, because I don't want to throw an 18-year-old in there with the expectation of the world. I need this for a title. Also, the other player, I know we're not linked to him, just throwing it out there. What are you guys' thoughts on Renato Sanchez?
He looked good.
He's been absolutely phenomenal this season as well for club, and I think for country as well. He could potentially be, I mean, likely we're going to get Camavinga, hopefully. But if we don't, I'd be open to get Renato Sanchez as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Renato Sanchez is, like, I think he's a good player, he's a young player and all that, and I think he's always had good potential, but I hate, because I've only really seen him in the tournament. I know he has had a good season at Ligue 1 as well, but I think, Fred is looking really, really good in Copa America, but that's because he's playing next to, Casemiro, and Fred's having a really, really good Copa America. I only watched one of the games, but people that watched all the games are saying, like, Fred is balling in Copa America, and I just go, yeah, Renato Sanchez could be doing brilliant right now in the Euros, could be doing brilliant for Lille, but we know Ollie loves McTominay. Is Camavinga not Camavinga, Renato Sanchez going to be that baller next to McTominay? I think he's looked really, really good, but I hate almost looking at tournaments to sort of judge a player. Well, but I would take him over Fred.
He's been phenomenal for Lille.
He has been phenomenal.
They won the league as well, man. Like, I think, look, again, he's not really a CDM as well, so we're kind of just getting a lot of players.
Anyone but Fred, I think it is.
I know. All those players are 8s, all of them, apart from Matic.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Matic. I mean, it just comes back to Ndidi for me, really, to be honest. That in terms of, an out-and-out CDM, that would be the ideal person for me. But
I mean, Ndidi would be a dream signing. I'm going to come to Chris here. There's obviously speculation that Van der Beek could leave Manchester United. Obviously, someone's asked if this is true. It's just speculation. I do think Van der Beek will stay. I would be surprised if he left after one season. There's rumours about him in the swap deal for Varane. There's rumours about Van der Beek leaving, but I think, with the Pogba leaving, we wouldn't get rid of Van der Beek if Pogba leaves. What would you feel if Man United actually let Van der Beek go after one season? Would you be disappointed, or do you think it's the right decision?
Really disappointed, actually. Really disappointed. I think he's got so much more to show than what we've seen, and that's not down to him. He obviously hasn't really been given the opportunity. He hasn't always taken those little opportunities that he's had. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but you expect that someone coming from that era of Edersi coming in to play in the Premier League for Manchester United, and you only get 4 minutes here and there. You expect, he needs to get into the groove. He needs a run of games, and he isn't getting that. But I get it. Ollie was after results, needed to secure the place that he was trying to secure. Maybe never felt like throwing him in, but I would be disappointed. But on the flip side of that, if we're going to utilise him in the same way as we did last season, then we may as well move him on. So again, I think it's one of those things again where it's like, what's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans? What's the director of football's plan? Who's coming in? Who's going out? Because if Paul Pogba leaves, it looks like Van der Beek was kind of signed in a way, almost as an expectation that Pogba was going to leave last summer, and that didn't happen, and then he didn't play. So Pogba leaves this summer. Are we finally going to see that he takes his role? And if that's the case, but if Pogba stays and signs a new contract, then I can see him moving on, to be honest. Or it's same again.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I want Van der Beek to stay. I'd be so disappointed if Van der Beek left, because the amount of times I sat there going, why is Fred playing? It's 0-0. We have no creativity. Ollie put Van der Beek on. I've probably said it in most of our games. Take Fred off. Put Van der Beek on. We're not scoring goals. We're not creating anything. And I think it would be an absolute shame to let Van der Beek go. But then I think of Van der Beek, and I think, the Eredivisie ended early. He's been up and down because he hasn't had consistent game time. You can't expect him to perform every chance he gets if he doesn't get consistent game time. This guy is young. He can get better. He's a talent. For Van der Beek, I want him to be playing regular football because I know he's a top player. I just want him to be playing regular football at Man United. And I'm kind of like, if we're really seriously not going to use Van der Beek at all next season, and his next season will be the same as this season, I think you have to let him go. But I just think, why would this club let a player like Van der Beek go over McTominay and Fred? Because, look, yes, McTominay and Fred have had more important roles for us, but Van der Beek is better. And I don't know how you feel about it, Usman. Like, what's your thought on the Donny situation?
I mean, I'm going to just say one thing, right? And obviously, by all means, everyone's probably going to disagree. But if you actually look at our top performances in terms of the game, Van der Beek's played in every single one of them. And I mean, that's almost like, I can give you a couple of examples. So the RB Leipzig game, first and foremost, we won 5-0. Van der Beek starts in the diamond alongside Pogba. A lot of energy, a lot of count. This is one thing, right, that has really frustrated me with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When teams are pressing against you and you've got one of the best ball-playing players in the league, I know people aren't going to agree with it, against counter-press, so teams that press you, Van der Beek is so good at getting past the press. That's what he's done throughout his entirety of his career, and he hasn't been utilising those games. But the RB Leipzig game, we won 5-0. He was absolutely sensational. The game against Everton, I believe we beat them 2-0. That was in the cup, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Van de Beek was phenomenal in that game. He started that game alongside Bruno and Pogba. I mean, we saw that midfield once, and we absolutely destroyed Everton, who were so-called title challenge at the time. The game against Newcastle, as another example, we're 1-1. I know Bruno was obviously the guy who got the goal when he put it to the top corner, but who gets substituted on the 80th minute? 1-1. Van de Beek gets subbed on, we score 3, win 4-1. I mean, it's not a coincidence. This happens time and time again. And like Chris said, how do you expect a player to build any momentum on 4 minutes, Camis? And people are like, well, he hasn't done anything with those 4 minutes. You've got to make things happen. I mean, I get that. I understand that you've got to take your chances in life. Rashford did it when he first came through the team. I mean, no one expected him to burst onto the scene the way he did. But Van de Beek is a system player in terms of he controls the game. He's the person we've been missing deep. When Pogba was playing left wing, why was Van de Beek not utilised in the middle of the park to control the game? Honestly, it just blows my mind that he hasn't been played more. And for me personally, it would be an absolute shame to let a player of that quality go. And you'd probably tear it up at another team. And a lot of people will say, oh, there you go, another. It'd be similar to Dubai, basically, if we let him go. For me personally, I think he's a quality technician. It just hasn't happened for him at the moment. But he'll come through.
Sorry, just to add to that, I think that's part of the CBM problem again, because with Van de Beek, the only thing I will say about him is he's not that disciplined. And I don't mean as in he gets red cards. I mean as in he doesn't stay in his position. He a lot of the time he's ahead of Cavani, ahead of Martial, whoever's playing up front. He finds himself the furthest man forward a lot and leaves that the one central midfielder really exposed. And that's okay if you've got Kante. But it's not okay with the players we've got. I mean, Pogba, brilliant at what he does, but if he was playing alongside him, like give up on it, because you're going to get overran with those two. And if he's playing alongside Fred and McTominay, neither of them are good enough to cover. So I think that's part of the issue. It's a tactical thing. In Ajax, because it's total football, that's fine. Get ahead of your striker. Striker fills in. That doesn't happen with us. That's not the way we play. We sit back, counter-attack. And I don't think
I mean,
it's really helped him.
I mean, I hear your point, Chris. I do hear your point, but I raise you a guy called McTominay who has got no awareness of anything going on around him in terms of tracking.
Positionally.
I mean, no, even McTominay hasn't got any awareness. Like the amount of goals that we conceded that a player's run off McTominay and he's barely got mentioned because he's not Paul Pogba. And I mean, I don't want to go down that agenda route, but I just feel like you're comparing. I understand your point you're making because I do agree with it. But you've been comparing him to McTominay and Fred starting. I mean, if McTominay and Fred can play that many games, one of them needs to come out for Van de Beek. There's no way. Fred, for hypothetically speaking, let's just say Fred plays as the CDM and Van de Beek plays as the McTominay roles, whatever that is, next to him. I mean, Fred can do all the dirty work and play to Van de Beek. Van de Beek will get the ball moving, similar to what Jorginho's done for Italy. Only now people are starting to praise Jorginho, but this guy's been doing it all season for Chelsea, and he's done it elsewhere in Italy as well. I mean, people don't see the simple things. You look at the way Busquets plays. I'm not saying Van de Beek's on that level, but of course he's not. But Van de Beek makes football look very easy. It's all one-touch, two-touch football, and that is one of the things we're crying out for. Because if you look at the way we play, most of the issues are the transition play from back to front is too slow, and that's why a lot of teams find it easy to play against us. Because by the time we've passed the ball through the midfield to the final third, they're all set up because we take so long transition to play, and he's the perfect player to transition play because it's one-touch, two-touch. That's what you need, and especially with Sancho there, who's one-touch, two-touch. I guarantee you them two together would be absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head with the whole Donny Van de Beek situation. I basically agree with everything you say. You know, I think, okay, if you actually, one thing actually we could bring into this is I always thought, okay, Matic is an out-and-out CDM, but Matic hasn't got the legs to play 90 minutes anymore, but Matic is an out-and-out CDM. And we played Wolves and we played Leicester, and we played with Donny and Matic. And we lost to Leicester, we won to Wolves. But one thing I noticed in that game that we don't get a lot of other games is Donny and Matic, the midfield wasn't overrun. In fact, Donny and Matic were two of the best players when they played together. And if you look at Man United versus Wolves in the last 3 years, we always seem to struggle versus Wolves because they always play the low block with Nuno. Yeah. It was always 0-0s, 1-0 losses, 1-0 wins, 1-0. Whenever we've played Wolves, we've always played badly and they've parked the bus. You know, we've always struggled against Wolves. And we basically played our B team against Wolves. You know, you didn't have Rashford, Cavani, Martial, Bruno. You had Elanga, you had Amad Diallo. And it was basically Wolves' strongest team without Jimenez because they didn't have him all season. But instead of Fred in midfield, we had Donny and Matic in midfield with our whole B team around them. but it was the best football we played against Wolves in the last 3 seasons, and it's because we didn't have McFred. And I just think it's McFred together, because yes, Matic doesn't have the legs to play week in, week out, but a CDM and Donny, I think, works. I think Matic and Fred look better than McTominay and Fred. I think Matic and Pogba obviously works when Matic can do it. I think Pogba and McTominay look better. It's just, I think McFred is literally there because it gives you a clean sheet, but going forward, it offers nothing.
We don't get what clean sheets do we get? Like, we barely
potential
get
clean sheet. It's 0-0. You play McFred, you go for a goal, you concede. You play McFred, you go for a 0-0, you get a 0-0. I think that's what it is. But I always think we played our best football.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I was just going to say that I think, your point exactly is kind of what I was trying to hopefully get out, is that when Van der Beek played alongside Matic, you see the best of Van der Beek because he needs that protection, because he does get too advanced. I don't want to say too advanced because he should be joining in the attacks, but he needs that protection. And alongside Fred and McTominay, I don't think he's getting that. But they kind of both, I don't want to say complement each other because they're not good enough to play that role. But how do I put this? They're neither 8s or 6s. So they both sit there in front of the defence. But Van der Beek is not going to give us that.
Yeah, no. Van der Beek's better football to watch.
He's about football for start. I think we all can agree on that.
100%.
But this myth that McTominay offers something in terms of, protection or screening. I mean, he does it in some games. Don't get me wrong. In the big game, McTominay is actually a good player to have in the lineup because as he showed in the final, he actually is always up for the big game. So fair play to him. He's got a good mentality. I'll give him that. But in terms of Van der Beek, he's used to pressing football. Like, he's got Ajax education. You can't get better education. The only better education in academy is probably Barcelona, arguably, in terms of a football sense. And even then, that's from Ajax. So in terms of his education, he's used to playing a high octane football in terms of pressing. And you saw it again. I don't want to come back to RB Leipzig again, but it's the best example. I know we played a different formation in the Diamond, but when we won 5-0, if you actually go back and look at the sort of amount of presses that we initiated, Van der Beek, Pogba and Martial, I mean, you never would imagine me saying Pogba and Martial alongside Van der Beek initiate the press more than any other player on the pitch. And it comes from a tactic point. At the end of the day, if this is the way I see it, if Van der Beek's not pressing for you or he's not running the way McTominay runs, don't blame. But if you don't give him the instructions to do that, he's not going to do that. And this is the problem with Man United. We don't have the instructions to press from the front. And then McTominay and Fred look better than they are because they're the only two guys offering energy. The other front men haven't been instructed to do that. But if you actually look at it, Cavani, Bruno are both players that would love to press from the front. Van der Beek, again, within his nature to press from the front. Rashford, you would say, is similar to that as well to an extent, if they have the instruction to do so. So I think with Van der Beek not being able to play that, I think he's more than capable of playing there if he has the right system around him to suit. And I'm not saying build a team around him, but what I'm saying is we need to build a system that gets the best out of our players and actually stops relying on Bruno magic, on Rashford magic. A lot of the game is, we need someone to step up now. Why didn't Pogba step up? Why didn't Bruno step up? Why didn't Rashford step up? It's a team sport. We don't play like a team. And that is the problem. Why players like Van der Beek, who's used to being in a team in Ajax through his entirety of his career, has now come to a team that's completely disjointed because no one's got any direction in what they're doing. It's just like it just changes every game basically. So we need to work on the structure. And this isn't a criticism of Oli, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to take a player out and put another player in, and that to have no impact if the quality is the same. Look at Man City. They lost David Silva, they've chucked in Foden, and you wouldn't even notice that they lost their best midfielder in their history. So I think we need to look at the system as well. I think he has suffered a lot from that also.
I do appreciate that, but we saw what happened to Man City when they played without a CDM.
CDM's most important.
It all fell apart.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. But
so he needs one. That's not Matic.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, I agree with that. But he does, of course, need one. But in saying that, if you have the right players around him, have the right players around Pogba as well, a proper system like we did in the Diamond, then you see him flourish because Fred played behind him. He's not a CDM. I mean, the only difference was in that game, if you look at it, was they were all instructed to play in a certain position. You watch the right side of midfield, Pogba watch the left side. We need you to press, get on top of people. If you watch the RB Leipzig game back, where we beat him 5-0, you'd be so impressed. And I give full credit to Oli because the way he set us up was absolutely perfection in that game. and we counter pressed them back as well, and we put them under pressure, and that was down to Ali. And I think since then he hasn't utilised these players to their strengths. But coming back to your point, we do definitely need to see them. I think that's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, that is some really solid, good points made there. Now, this comment also made me think of something like simple. Fred is 2 players doing 1 player's job. So many players being denied opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I look at it and I think our midfield is overrun because they do the job that one top CDM does. But so it's like almost we have 1 less player in midfield. And I think, whenever we play a game, we can win the game, we can lose the game. But the pattern of Man United this season is we normally have a shocking first half. Then the second half, we score a couple goals, we go attack. The attack wins us the game. But we always say, we won the game. But did we play well? No, the midfield was overrun. Were the fullbacks really good? Yeah. Were the attack good? Yeah. It's all of that. And I just think it's because we almost have 1 less player when we play with McFred, because I think they got overrun in the midfield. And going back to all the points you say, it restricts us, I think, going forward. Because, okay, if you're playing Manchester City, play McFred because it works. But I don't want to see McFred against Arsenal. They're just a mid-table club. We should be going and battering Arsenal. I feel like we should be battering Arsenal. You know what? You could play McFred against City, but we came second. I don't even think we should be playing McFred against Spurs or Arsenal. They aren't. There was McFred is there for the games where you are the underdogs, and that's it, just to protect the defense and hit them on the counter. But I think because when we play them, we lose it, the midfield is just dead. We just need, as we said time and time again, we need a CDM, because if you get a CDM, Fred looks really good next to Casemiro in Copa America. McTominay's best games have been as a box-to-box. Southampton, Leeds, where he's got forward. McTominay defensively, I don't think he's very good. He's just tall. Pogba, obviously, when he's unlocked, he gets the freedom, he's fantastic. And Donny next to Matic is brilliant. We've got so many players that can play this box-to-box role, but only Matic is a CDM. And time again, as come back to what you're saying, we just need someone to come in and get Matic, because you get the best out of Fred, McTominay, Donny, and Pogba with a CDM next to them. That's what I think.
Yeah, can I just add one thing as well? I know we're going on the same topic, but I just want to add this as well. Again, another factor that we've not really considered is that, hypothetically speaking, let's say Fred is starting, right? We take McTominay for the sake of it. So we play double pivot instead of Fred and McTominay. We've got Fred and Donny Van de Beek, and we're playing against Man City. Okay, McTominay has done a job against them, but what does Donny Van de Beek offer that McTominay doesn't? His ability to start the counter attack, for starters, and actually start the counter attack. I mean, with McTominay and Fred, we're almost setting ourselves up to withstand a lot of pressure, because they don't have an ability to pass the ball out from the back or the middle of the park. I mean, they do have the ability, but the consistency and the sort of, the conversion, so to speak, it's not very high. But you got someone like Van de Beek in there, automatically it makes us a different outfield, because we're offering something going forward, because he's got the ability to play that forward pass, and his percentage of successfully playing that is a lot higher than it is for McTominay. I'm sure we could all agree on that. So you've got to look at that factor as well. Okay, granted, McTominay might have his physical presence and his dogged attitude, whatever you call it, but Van de Beek offers something that we don't have in terms of controlling the midfield. We don't control the games. I mean, you go back to the Everton game. I know I'm harping on about the same game because he's not played many, but the Everton game where we beat him 2-0 in the cup, Bruno, Pogba, and Van de Beek against an Everton team that were flying at the time couldn't lay a glove on us. I mean, we absolutely outplayed them. We controlled the midfield completely, and that's what Man United is to me. I'm not saying we played this, passing football fan guy, but what I'm saying is, as you could rightly said, against Arsenal, against Spurs, teams that are lesser than us, we should be controlling the game. There's no way Arsenal should be controlling against us. We shouldn't even allow teams like that to have the whole. But if you're playing Fred and McTominay, automatically it doesn't work like that, because they can't control a game. They just don't have that in their locker, and Van de Beek's got that. So that's how it is for me personally.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I think we all know that we don't want to see McFred in the midfield next season. I think 99% of Man United fans, if they got asked McFred or no McFred, they will probably tick no McFred. I think we all know that and stuff. And talking about a situation that is a bit more of a debate is the De Gea Henderson situation. Now, look, I like both keepers. I think they're both keepers. I think one of them's got to go because they both want to be number one. So we've got Tom Heaton in. No one really cares that we signed them. But I think that it's more indication. I think Henderson is more sellable, younger, lower wages, could get more money for him. But there's more and more indications that as much as De Gea wants to stay, he could be the keeper booted out. And I want to go to Chris first, and I'll come to Usman. Like, who would you keep in goal for next season? If you had to sell one, who would you sell?
I mean, in regards to who would be more sellable, I actually think possibly De Gea would be more sellable in terms of the money that you'd bring in, even though that he's older. I think you could possibly sell it to someone like a PSG. Or the son,
But they've got Donnarumma, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just to correct myself there. Real Madrid or whoever it may be. Whereas I'm not sure Dean Henderson is quite there yet on that level in terms of his sort of global reputation. So I'm not sure you would get the money for him, actually. But De Gea is probably one of the best shot stoppers in the Premier League. He's been great for us. I think he won the Player of the Season for us 3 years running at one point when we were really struggling. And he deserves all of the praise and the respect and the time that he's been given. But ultimately, I mean, Dean Henderson does have some attributes that De Gea doesn't. As much as he's a better shot stopper, he commands his box better. He marshals the defence better. He comes for crosses. And I want to see that from my goalkeeper. To be fair, every time a corner comes in, I feel like De Gea is very static on the line. And it's all right pulling off a Hollywood save, but the reason why he's having to pull off them Hollywood saves is because he hasn't come and caught it in the first place.
Yeah.
And sometimes Dean Henderson doesn't find himself in them situations because he deals with the initial situation better. And maybe that goes a little bit more unnoticed because when he's commanded his defenders to come out a little bit further so the ball doesn't get there, or he's punching the ball out, he's not having to make as many saves. And actually, if you compare across the season, I'm weird like this, I was looking into it, he actually faces less shots because he commands better. And that might just be a completely, lucky statistic. That's the case. But I do feel like he commands the box better. And actually, long term, I think Dean Henderson can grow. So I'd sell De Gea. As much as he's been a great servant for us, and I would hate to see him go.
Controversial.
I would sell De Gea. I would.
Ooh.
Fair enough.
What about you? What's your thoughts on that, Usman? De Gea or Henderson?
I mean, I know it's not the question, but I just want to throw it in quickly. Why the hell did we not sign Donnarumma? I was saying it for about
because of PSG again.
I mean, he's a free. We didn't even go for him. I was so embarrassing, but that's off topic. Anyways, De Gea, Henderson. I think De Gea is still the better keeper. I think Henderson's got too many mistakes in him. Something that's said consistently. However, because he's younger, really. I mean, yes, I suppose, but I mean, you're gonna have to sell De Gea, to be quite frank with you, just because of the age factor. It's sad to say. I mean, De Gea is the better goalkeeper at the moment as it stands. Is there a potential we can get Martinez off Villa? I don't know. That's a bit cheeky, but he's been absolutely outstanding as well. I would.
You look good, yeah.
I would potentially look at another keeper, anyways, in general. But I think De Gea we can get money, as Chris has said. He's got that global stature. I don't know who sacrificed. Of course, Juventus. Juventus need a keeper. They've got Szczesny out there. So he could potentially go Juventus. I think that's a shout. Maybe Atletico Madrid. They've kind of been linked to him a lot. He is, of course, from Atletico Madrid as well. There's that story. I'd take all black. I'm not complaining. By all means, if you want to stop him. I think we're going to have to keep Henderson because of his age, sadly.
Yeah, I think
one in the club. We could sell both and buy all black.
I mean, it's difficult because with the Glazers, signing Sancho is like the best thing they've done in the last 5 years, and that's, Sancho is basically the Ronaldo replacement for 2003 that we never had, just nearly 20 years later, not 2000, 2009 he left.
That's big boots to fill there. I not put any pressure on him at all.
I know, but like
Ronaldo to retire, and
we
then
haven't signed a proper young up and coming Depay. I feel like Sancho is the right winger we haven't had for a while, and with the expectation of the Glazers, as much as you could be like get Donnarumma and get rid of both keepers, someone commented earlier like we can't sell our deadwood. Is that why we're trying to ship out players like Martial and Donny, because we know that we can't sell Phil Jones, or we can only let Pereira go on loan. That we are run awful. I mean, look, I actually think De Gea is a better goalkeeper than Dean Henderson.
Yeah.
But I think Dean Henderson has potential to be better. I think right now I have like no issue who starts a goal for us next season. I think they're both great keepers. But again, if we were run like an amazing club, we could sit there being like, get rid of both keepers, get Donnarumma in, Pogba's staying, get this player, get that player, get CDM, and we could sit here all sorted. But with United, they've signed Sancho, that's 90% of their business done.
That should have happened last year, Alice. Come on, we're giving some credit there.
I know, that's what I was literally coming to that. I was like, Sancho was last summer's signing, they got done this summer. But what I'm saying is, United, if let's say we fuck up Varane, we fuck up Camavinga, like we get Sancho and some shit player because just a shit last minute signing to please us. The board will be like, yeah, we got Sancho. We did really well this transfer window. Like, no, you didn't. You got last summer's transfer window.
Yeah.
And Marty says excuses, and that completely scares me. You know, I have no faith in this ball, because 1 minute it looks like we're going to get Varane and Camavinga, but then the next minute I go, you support Man United, Alice. You know, we're not Chelsea. We're not Man City. You know, yes, Varane wants United. Yes, United want Varane. Yes, personal terms are not an issue. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Real Madrid might have to sell. Would it surprise me if Real Madrid offered Varane massive wages, he ended up staying, or United didn't pay the money? No. If Chelsea swooped in for him, would it surprise me? No. Yes, Camavinga, very, very cheap. Man United clearly want him. Camavinga's open to moving to Man United, but we've got to compete with PSG for him. Would it surprise me?
Chelsea might want Camavinga as well, to be fair.
And Chelsea, and they just won the Champions League. They could be like, you can come to the European Championship. PSG, they won a Champions League? No. You know, I mean, they probably might in the next few years.
They're gonna win the league on their.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe Lille won the league. That is fantastic. You know, I'd love it if PSG don't win the league for the next 10 years. But, you know, it's pretty obvious they are and all of that. But I actually want to come to something not on the topic of Man United as we sort of wrap up the live stream. But England, is it coming home? Let's come to Chris. Give me your thoughts on the game.
I so badly want to say yes. I so badly want to say yes.
Do it. Come on, mate.
I really hope so. We've been so good defensively. Obviously, 1 goal conceded from a free kick. Pickford probably should have had that, to be fair. I don't know. To be honest with you, I think it's going to go 1-0 either way. Like, neither team really concede goals. I think it's going to be very cagey. I don't think there'll be many chances in the game at all. I think their fullbacks are their weakness. I mean, they've got Emerson up against Sterling, so that should be pretty interesting. But their midfield is better than ours, I would say. I think Verratti, Jorginho, I think are going to dictate the game.
Yeah, versus Phillips and Rice. I did think they, as much as they ran a lot, and I don't think the CDMs were bad yesterday, but I did think the midfield was getting overrun a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, and Italy's midfield is far better than Denmark's, you know, truth be told. So I think we may spend a lot of time without the ball. But we've got the players to counter-attack. I think you'd probably go Sterling and Saka, although I'd go Sancho, because if you're putting them up, because they're weak point of their fullbacks, it's probably the only weakness they have.
I'd go Rashford, you know, I'm not going to lie.
Would you?
Pace could be, they're quite slow.
On the
break, I'd go Sancho because you could isolate Emerson one-on-one if they swap sides.
I mean, on the break, right, Rashford, I mean, Man United have been one of the best counter-attack teams in this season. I know he's not going to put Rashford in, but it's just me personally, if you're looking at him, on the break, Rashford's one of the best. Like, generally, he's rapid. Yeah, he's quick, first and foremost, but he's very direct as well.
I was frustrated he didn't come on last night, to be fair, when we were winning 2-1 and he made the change. I thought, why are you not Kane for Rashford? Why are we not trying to get in behind him right now? Because they were pressing him.
Exactly. That's why. I mean, that would have made sense to me. I felt like he was trying to get him behind, but he didn't have the right players on the pitch. But look, at the end of the day, coming back to you, Chris. Who's winning?
Sorry. Just to finish up what I was saying, I think you'll pick Saka because they'd be more worried about Chiesa the other way. But I'm going to say 1-0, and I'm going to say Harry Kane's going to level the golden boot. 1-0 England, champions of Europe.
Ooh.
Wow.
Coming on.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm gonna obviously say England are winning it. Like, I'm not even gonna sit here and try to go into too much detail why Italy are gonna offer us threats, because for me personally, their midfield is gonna completely boss the game. I'll be surprised if it doesn't. I've been a huge fan of Barella anyway for Inter Milan. He's been sensational, and even in this competition, my concern is. I'm assuming Mount's going to play. My concern is that Barella. He's been ghosting in a lot. In the last couple of games, he's been a problem, and he's getting to pockets of space. Who's going to pick him up? That's one of my concerns. But I'm gonna obviously back England as well. But I'm gonna say 1-1 and England win on pens, because I mean 1-0 sounds great, but I can see them scoring from a corner, and Chiellini.
No way you're backing us on penalties. No way.
I mean, I'm going to. I think Chiellini and Bonucci. Someone scoring from a set piece from their team. I'm fairly confident. But
Chiellini stand.
They look good on set pieces.
I mean, they're dangerous from set pieces. Look, I know Maguire's been brilliant. I don't want to be negative here, but we know how poor we are from set pieces defensively, and still a couple of minor boys in there.
You know, England, Southgate's BTEC Ollie. In a way, I think the way we played, the late subs.
I'm not sure it's not the other way around now.
I mean,
it could be that if he wins the trophy, it's the other way around. If he wins the trophy, Ollie's the BTEC Southgate. But
they love not making subs.
That's why I don't want it to go to penalty.
I think Southgate's done really well, you know.
Yeah, he has to be fair to him.
Not even because we're in the final, but generally, like, his decisions have all been questioned. He's stuck to his guns, and they've always been the right ones so far.
I think he's like Ollie, you know, you doubt him, you're like, is this the right guy? Because you look at some of the picks he makes, you're like, why is Grealish on the bench? Sancho's is Donny van de Beek. And then all of a sudden, you know, it looks like it's going to be a shit season, like with Man United, we come second. It looks like it's going to be a shit tournament, 0-0 with Scotland. We're in the final. It really reminds me of Ollie. Like, but if we win, he's got a trophy, which Ollie hasn't got.
If he wins, he's getting knighted, and if he doesn't, it's a disgrace. So, look, first time in our lifetimes, we're in the final. 1-1, England on penalties. You heard it here first. But as Chris said, football is coming home.
I hope it comes home. I hope it comes home. I'm not saying I can't let it go to penalties because I keep saying it's a big Ollie. I do not want a final on penalties because we know how that ended with Villarreal.
Oh shit! Yeah, that room is massive.
For me, I think it's gonna be one of them games where we look really buzzing for the first 10-15 minutes. Wembley's behind us.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
We come out strong. We get an early goal. We go 1-0 up. But I feel like because we go 1-0 up, we're gonna invite too much pressure. We're gonna sit back. And then they're gonna make it 1-0. It goes into extra time though. And I think we'll nick it in extra time. I just think they'll go for it and we'll just Raheem counter-attack, Kane, goal. I think 2-1 England. I think it's coming home.
Oh, yes. I mean, we're definitely not biased.
We can't be wrong. We can't all be wrong.
Definitely not biased here. Definitely not biased.
Definitely not biased. But literally 3 days' time, it could be home. It's absolutely, I'm so excited for the game and all that. But thanks to everyone for tuning into the live stream. Thank you for Usman and Chris coming on. Where can the viewers find you, Usman?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure. Three Musketeers and that. But so you can find me on Usman Talks United on Twitter and YouTube.
Awesome. Where can the viewers find you, Chris?
The Football Agenda, and type it into YouTube, comes up, and on Twitter _ the Football Agenda. And thank you so much for having us, Alice. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks to everyone tuning into the live stream. Please do go check out Chris and Usman's YouTube channel. Links to them are in the description. Of course, subscribe to me. Push into 15K. I think like 80 subscribers to go. So let's see if we can hit that. You guys subscribe. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully football will be coming home to England. That'll be massive. Hopefully Varane comes to England, Camavinga comes to England, and Pogba stays in England as well. That would be even better. But thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share. See you next time, guys.